Okay, the childrens who didn't satisfy the needs at each of the stage later will have a problem. For example, the needs at each of the stage, oral stage, anal stage, pelvis, latent, genital, the first stage, oral stage, the baby normally satisfied the need using mouth. That's why when you see baby of the age of 1, they always use their mouth, either to play with the toys, or they always grab something and put in their mouth because they use the mouth to satisfy their needs. At this stage, the baby use anal, it means they poo and they pee as they likes because they want to satisfy that stage. That's what's according to Freud. So if the baby or children didn't satisfy this stage, they will experience problems later because the needs that didn't satisfy become fixated, will be repressed, and will reappear later. So this kind of behavior that is not satisfied will appear later in the negative way. For example, at the anal stage, if the baby didn't satisfy the needs at this stage, later it will appear this baby, when they grow up, they become jealous of someone. They have this kind of jealousy, or they use their mouth. For example, they eat more or they smoke. They want to satisfy the needs of using the mouth. So at this for example, because baby, as you know, they always use the mouth either to eat or to drink milk, and later if they didn't satisfy, either they will for example transform into behavior normally into negative way. For example, here I mentioned already, either they smoke, either they eat more, or either they bite their nail. So these indications, these are indications that they didn't satisfy when they were at oral stage. So the behavior that they will show if the oral stage is not satisfied is they may become more jealousy, or may jealous of someone. They become more impatient. They may have a verbal aggressiveness towards someone. So that's why you can see some people, they have different kind of personality, soft spoken. Some people are very loud. So that's because according to the Freud, because of the earlier stage, their needs are not satisfied. Pelvic stage is the third stage. According to Freud, here children's getting pleasure by having their genital regions. That means by having their genital. According to Freud, I mentioned in the beginning, Freud tend to explain the psychosocial developments of human being based on sexual interpretations. So at the age of 3 to 6, according to Freud, children's getting pleasure by most of the times regarding the area at the genital regions. At the genital regions. So this is called the pelvic stage. Is the third stage of development, and between normally happen when we were at the age of 3 to 6 years old. So at this stage, the children will learn the differences in terms of genital differences, in terms of gender differences between males and females. That's why at this stage, they have that kind of feeling shy, or feeling with the opposite sex. So at this age, they can differentiate between males and females. So the early stage, the first 5 years, according to Freud, the early first 5 years is very important to the development of the adults, because this development of the children or the baby at the first to 5 years of early life actually can influence later, because if they are early age from 1 to 5 years old, if they develop a healthy and positive individual, they also will become a healthy adults behavior later at work. So at this the third stage is a pelvic stage, also will transform into becoming individual who can differentiate between sexual identifications. So that's why According to Freud, when at this stage, if the children could differentiate between male and females, they later will become normal individual. They could be able to differentiate between their sexual identifications. So this can explain that those who do not those who have problem identify their gender. For example, if they've been born as a male, suddenly they transform into female. That's because of their sexual identification at this stage is not fulfilled. So those who have healthy developments at the age of 1 to 5 also will have healthy moral conscience, and also will have healthy heterosexual relationships, and be able to love unselfishly later when they grow up. So it is important for the children at the age of 1 to 5, because this actually will be the key point, the central point for their healthy in terms of their when they grow up, in terms of their work, in terms of their relationships, in terms of their love relationship, marriage relationships, and so on. So Erikson's another theory regarding psychosocial developments. We finish with Freud. So we're moving to Erikson's. Erikson's come with the age stages from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 11, 12 to 8. And these stages are called, for example, first infancy, and then second called early childhood, third preschool, fourth middle childhood, fifth adolescence, sixth young adulthood, seventh middle age, and eighth old age. So at each stage there will be a psychosocial crisis between trust versus mistrust at the age of 1, and then if this crisis be able to be satisfied or to be overcome, the individual, the baby, will experience hopes. So this crisis, trust versus mistrust, at the age of 1, normally between mother and children or the baby. If the baby be able to develop trust with their mother, they will develop hopes. If they will if let's say they didn't have a good relationship with the mother, the baby have a mistrust relationship with the parents, they will have problems, because this is actually the strength. When the crisis has been have been overcome, they will experience strength. If the crisis cannot be overcome, they will experience problems. So at each stage there will be crisis that these children or individual have to deal with. If they be able to deal with the crisis, they will develop personality strengths. See here at each level, for example, at this age, they will develop initiative. They will have this crisis, initiative versus guilt. If these children be able to overcome this crisis, the children will develop more purpose in their life. So normally when we talk about initiative and guilt, this actually the crisis happen between the children themselves, with the parents, with the family, and with the friends. So for example, if the middle childhoods, this crisis, industry versus inferiority, and normally the children will experience crisis when they have relationship with school. So maybe the school didn't allow them to be industrious enough. The school will maybe because of the teachers are too fierce, or too what we call it, too fierce, and then they didn't like children to be more industrious. So the children will develop inferiority complex. So these are the crises that the children have to overcome. If the children be able to overcome between the crisis between this industry versus inferiority, the children will be able to have strengths in terms of competency. That's what it said based on the psychosocial developments of Erikson's. So Erikson lifespan have 8 stages, like I mentioned until here, 8 stages. So under development task, so each of the individual experience will face crisis here. There's a crisis here. And if the crisis could be resolved, positive revolutions build for foundations arise for the healthy development. So if the children or individual be able to overcome the crisis, the individual will develop a strong or healthy individual. That's what it said based on the textbook. So when we want to summarize about the lifespan developments and later year, Freud will be emphasize more on the first 5 years of the childhood development. According to these two, the first 5 years are important, which can influence the developments of individual later when they grow up. Erikson, they're focusing more on the life learning. It's not just the first 5 years, but actually throughout the life, spanning through 8 consecutive stages. It's not just the first 5 years, but throughout the stages. According to Freud, this actually is important towards ego identity for these 8 stages. So ego identity is obtained by resolving the conflict. So if the children be able to or individual be able to resolve the conflicts that they face on each stage, they will have ego identity. They will develop ego identity and ego identity. So each phase constitutes critical periods and for developments of ego identity. So ego attributes also could determine the self-concept. So if conflict could be resolved, ego identity could be acquired. So this will develop self-concept. That means high self-efficacy, high self-confidence in the individuals or in the children. So each phase incorporates a psychosocial crisis. As you all know, each stage have their own crisis. I have been repeat this, mentioned this many times. So this basically for for Erikson's, Erikson focusing more on the life learning and then overcoming a crisis and then becoming a healthy or well individual. This crisis can balance the good and the bad, and then giving more emphasis more on the positive aspects of the development of human being. So I just concludes the previous discussion into this slide to ease our understanding. For example, psychosocial development by Erikson's focusing more on 8 phases. That means 8 stages, and on each stages there is a pro and cons. That means there is a conflicts. So conflicts needs to be resolved in order to develop the individual into healthy individual. So satisfactions of the crisis will become important for the developments of individual, and it is will contribute to the ego identity, and also ego identity are important for the self concept. So this crisis could be rectified if and also the last 5 stages are more relevant to adults occupations. So these 5 stages, the last 5 stages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 stages are important for the later adults developments. The first three are for general individual.